Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is time for another Pittsburgh Hockey Now live chat. Hola, I'm Dan Kingerski here from the Pittsburgh Hockey Now studios, hidden somewhere in the north side of Pittsburgh. Hi, I'm Dan Kingerski. It's the trade deadline primer here on Pittsburgh Hockey Now. So what we're going to dive into today, quite simply, we're just going to hit the trade stuff. I know that's what you live for anyway. I can break down plays till the cows come home. And the questions I get are, who are they going to trade for? So this is for you. Hit the chat board. Let me know what you're thinking, what players you want to talk about, what you think the Penguins should do. I don't know if you saw it on Pittsburgh Hockey Now on Wednesday morning. When you work 7 days a week, all the days run together. But on Wednesday morning, I just went straight into it. Is Jim Rutherford done? And, really, the simple answer is no. You can't go all in and then stop most of the way there. The bottom line is the Penguins still have a couple issues. Look, we talked about getting a scoring winger before Jake Guentzel left the lineup or was taken from the lineup, right? Nothing has changed. They got Jason Zucker from Minnesota to replace Guentzel. I still like the top six. I still wonder if they could add a little scoring punch in the third line, but they probably, quite frankly, can't afford it. And I definitely think they could upgrade their forward depth. But I think there's maybe one need that is a little more pressing. Defenseman depth. You've seen it now for a solid couple weeks. Since Justin Schultz came back into the lineup, the Penguins have been kind of fiddling and fumbling even before then. The third pairing with Juuso Riikola, that guy, and Chad Ruhwedel has not been good. It just really hasn't been good enough. So, what do? I mean, look, Dumoulin will come back. He'll stabilize that top pairing with Chris Letang. Jack Johnson will probably go with Justin Schultz or John Marino. Either way, and Pettersson will go with the other guy. You're going to have three solid pairings, but what happens when one of those players, what happens when one more defenseman gets injured? If we've learned one thing this season, it is to never put the words healthy and Pittsburgh Penguins in the same sentence, unless it's preceded by never. Because the way the Penguins have gone this season, it's just not going to happen. So depth, especially defenseman depth. I mean, we saw this back in 2017 when the Penguins in February went and got Mark Streit. They went and got Ron Hainsey, and it turned out those two guys were integral in the Penguins' second of back-to-back championships. Streit helped stabilize them down the stretch. He played 19 games for the Penguins. I mean, look, he was 37 years old. He was out of gas. There was no question about that. But he added some veteran presence and just enough on the ice to get by, to get the Penguins by. Ron Hainsey, on the other hand, became the Penguins' top pairing defenseman with Brian Dumoulin. If memory serves, Hainsey cost a second and a fifth. So I think the Penguins have a need for depth. Their fourth liners are playing 3 and 4 and 5 minutes. Last night, Juuso Riikola and Chad Ruhwedel were effectively broken up in the second period. You saw Riikola playing some shifts with Justin Schultz, and you saw Ruhwedel sprinkling in with the other left side defenseman as well a couple times. You saw Jack Johnson and Chad Ruhwedel. And that was simply the coaches managing the ice time of the top four defensemen while keeping the third pairing involved, but not letting the third pairing be together on the ice because, quite frankly, they got run over again by Tampa Bay. And so, if you ask me, Dan, what will Jim Rutherford have to do? Defenseman depth. Now, that does not mean a guy like this. No. That's Brendan Dillon. He's going to be expensive. And the Penguins, unless they know something about Brian Dumoulin, unless they have concerns about Dumoulin's availability by March, then you start taking a look now at a guy like Brendan Dillon of the San Jose Sharks. He's one of the premier stay-at-home thumpers on the trade market. He probably goes for a second-round pick, which the Penguins don't have, so they would have to spend an asset equal to a second-round pick or find something that San Jose likes or dish a 2020. I assume they have a 2021 second-round pick. All right, so let me dive into the chat board. Well, while we're waiting, Medina says, I'm going to get my question up now. What happens when Cahoon comes back and if and when Bukestad comes back? Good questions, Medina, because I kind of went through that yesterday morning when I laid out the short-term and long-term Penguins lines. Look at the Penguins' fourth line right now. It's got Sam Lafferty, Andrew Agozzino on it. So when Cahoon and Bukestad come back, there are two obvious candidates to leave the lineup. That part isn't in question. There's plenty of space for Bukestad and Cahoon. Presuming that Bukestad, in fact, is not trade bait, which at this point, less than 2 weeks, 12 days now before the NHL trade deadline, Bukestad has to come back almost immediately. I think he has to come back this week for him to have legitimate trade value. Otherwise, a GM's wondering what he's getting. You know, if he doesn't come back this week, I don't see anything along those lines being able to happen, unless somehow the opposing GM really is a Bukestad guy and says, okay, I'll take the potential of damaged goods. But that's what happens, Medina. The Penguins have space. Sam Lafferty either goes to Wilkes-Barre or sticks around as the 13th forward. I think the bloom is off Sam just a bit, by the way. You know, he has played... Let me find my own name here. There I am. You know, I'm getting old. I actually have an app on my phone that tells me how many hours a day or how many hours a week I work. Last week, I got the text on Monday. Your average screen time was down to 14 hours and 41 minutes a day. Yeah, gee, why do I need glasses? Wait, I shouldn't say that with also a wrist brace on. You'll think I'm... Never mind. Can't wait to get those guys back and healthy. Okay. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is a nice place to live. Thank you, Charles Mack. I do enjoy it usually, except I'm a night owl, and Pittsburgh is not a night owl city. Pittsburgh is an old city. Roll up the sidewalks, make sure they're all swept so the walkers can get through. My question is, Brian Scott asks, how much cap space do the Pens have left after this trade? I've seen varying estimates, Brian. It's somewhere, I'm going to go with cap friendly and say about $4.3 million equivalent. I don't know why the NHL salary cap and the way they calculate it is just garbage. Because if you take all of the players on any one given roster and add up their average annual value, that does not give you the team's salary cap hit. Believe it or not. Wouldn't that be easy? The average annual salaries equal out to $80 million. That's your salary cap hit. No. Things like, a player was sent down to the minors for a week. You didn't pay him. Subtract a little bit. It just goes on like that. The Penguins have the equivalent of about $450,000 of cash left to pay this season, which is the prorated equivalent of about 4.3. The NHL just does screwy things like that. Adrian asks, Barawecki up in Ottawa, and I know I'm mispronouncing his name. He would be my first go-to. That would be the call I made to Ottawa. Send him down here. Let's go. However, he's an Ottawa guy. He's from Ottawa. He grew up loving the Ottawa Senators. He's going to give Ottawa a hometown discount to stay. He really has no desire to leave up there. That's everything I've read. I put him on some early trade target lists, Adrian. Barawecki he's an Ottawa guy. Having said that, if he wants a shot at a Stanley Cup, maybe he'd come down to Pittsburgh for a few months. I think the cost on him is probably a third-round pick, and the Penguins could afford that, and I would wholeheartedly endorse that, especially if the Penguins expect to have to go through the Washington Capitals. All right, let's see here. What are some good options just to reinforce that defense? I think we've been over the rentals, and I think that's really what the Penguins need. They need a rental who doesn't cost much, who won't cost them much in terms of the trade, too. I still go back to just Trevor Daley, Ron Hainsey, guys who were comfortable here, guys they were comfortable with. It's easy, no fuss, no muss. You're not asking them to play 25 minutes a night. You're going to ask them to play 15 if a need arises. And I think that's why people say, well, Daley's not having a great year. Nobody's having a great year in Detroit. Nobody is having a great year in Detroit. That's one of those, you look at the guy's physical skills to see if he can still do it, and you don't count that mess up there against him. Flames need a depth D-man trade. Ricola for Sam Bennett could give us the extra winger that can play up and down the lineup possibly. Oh, my God. My little hockey circle has been all about Sam Bennett for a few years now. 4th overall pick back in 2014. Bennett has really never clicked up in Calgary, at least on the offensive side of the stat sheet, but he's got a little snarl to his game. He's got a little vinegar in him. Calgary, yes, I think if they dealt Sam Bennett, however, it would not be for a depth D-man. If Calgary deals Sam Bennett, they're going to want a legitimate and honest return. I don't know that Juuso Riikola meets that criteria. I think to some might see that potential in Riikola. And in a different situation in the offseason, you can make moves based on potential. But Calgary is in the middle of that Western Conference mudslide. So they can't dither around or take chances and miss the playoffs. That would be very bad news. I mean, they've had a rough year. Brad Treveling has done a nice job to stabilize Calgary, the GM up there. But with the whole Bill Peters abuse thing, they've got to make the playoffs. They've got to get a win. They've got to get some mojo. They're not going to swap Juuso for Sam Bennett. If the Penguins were fully healthy, if Marino hadn't gotten hurt, I might tell you somebody else the Penguins could flip up to Calgary, but that's neither here nor there. Michael Leonard. Michael, how is you? Is it better to move a goalie now or in July? In July. It's hard to believe they will be able to afford both going forward. Yeah, Both guys are going to be restricted free agents. Both guys are going to want 7-figure annual contracts. Matt Murray's he's not going to take a pay cut. Somebody will, even though they're RFAs, they're going to fight, and Jarry probably gets a significant raise on his $675, yeah? Jarry, dude was an all-star. I would set the conservative market on Jarry at $2 million. Brian says, go get Big Buff. Brian, no. Big Buff hasn't been on the ice all year. If he started skating as hard as he could today, he might be ready for the playoffs. And he doesn't necessarily know exactly how good his ankle is. And teams don't know how strong his ticker is, how much he really wants it. Just leave sleeping dogs lie, and Big Buff, as much as I've always appreciated his game and been a fan of his, just not gonna happen. Here's one guy I know a lot of fans always, people want to go out and get J.G. Pajot up in Ottawa. And again, that's one of those kind of pie in the sky go-gets. Because look, Pajot is having a really good year. I assume he's scored more than 20 goals by now. I assume he's in the low 20s because he raced to 18 so quickly. And he'd be a great third-line center for any team. But look, if the Penguins are fully healthy and they were stocked, they had some prospects and draft picks on the table, yeah, I might say go do it. Although you've got Jared McCann waiting in the wings as the second third-line center. There ain't no reason to go after Jean-Gabriel Pajot. Dylan DeMilo, yeah, I've heard his name kicked around too. I've just heard nothing that the Penguins. I've heard zero around Pittsburgh on him. Let's trade Justin to Edmonton for Ethan Bear. I think we should trade Kyle to Edmonton for anything. Dan, love the show. Love you too, JV. We have Cahoon. Okay, I'm skipping past you, Kyle. You're fun, but let's... Okay. Let's see here. Jarry is starting game 1 in the playoffs. No, he's not, JV. Matt Murray is. Not because of Murray, but because Jarry is that dang good. I do agree that Jarry is really good. Matt Murray is starting the playoffs. Tell you what, I have forgotten to offer the discount to Pittsburgh Hockey Now Plus, PHN Plus. Friday night, I got a little tip, and I wrote a little story for my subscribers, which detailed the conversations that the coaches had over the last couple of weeks with both Jarry and with Tristan Jarry and Matt Murray, or Matt Jarry and Tristan Murray, either one. This is the inside telling you now, okay? Set your opinions aside. This is the situation. Matt Murray is the go-to goalie going forward. Big games, pressure situations, they're going to turn to Matt Murray. Period. Tristan Jarry has been told he's going to play a lot and to be ready because, now here's the caveat to everything, they are not going to let Matt Murray get comfortable. And that was also communicated to him in perhaps different words. If Murray slips, stumbles, regresses, is not playing well or is not sharp, the Penguins have said internally they will not hesitate to put Tristan Jarry into these situations. It's not a 1 and 1A, it's a 1 and 1B situation, okay? That's not my opinion. Although this is what I've been telling you now for, 2 months? More than 2 months? I've been telling you this is Matt Murray's net unless Tristan Jarry throws a knockout punch. Matt Murray has played really well. In fact, if you look at the statistics going back to January 1st, Matt Murray has a considerably better statistical line than does Tristan Jarry. Look, if you set Murray's baggage aside, he's really been good. That goal last night was just, I would have liked to have seen Murray stop that goal in regulation. I think so would he, but he just didn't see it. And it's one of those things that happens to every goaltender. The puck comes through traffic, and it finds that little foot between you and the post, and you never know. You can't see it. How do you think Zucker will perform the rest of the year? You know what, Stingy Cam? I will say this about Jason Zucker. Wait, do I have a picture? I have a picture of Jason Zucker somewhere. Well, I guess I do not. I thought I did. Nope. No, I do not. Anyway, okay, there we go. There's the cancel button. You know the thing that worries me about Zucker? Everybody thinks it's a great move. There's no disagreement that he's going to fit perfectly into the Penguins system. That he's going to play very well. And when everyone is on board, I get a little worried because when everyone agrees, we're always wrong. That's my biggest worry about Zucker. So take that for what it's worth. I thought last night he was good. He didn't think he was so good. You know, he said, I mishandled pretty much every puck that I touched. He had a pretty rough day yesterday. You know, you grab a duffel bag and some of your belongings, you hop a plane, you come flying to Pittsburgh, you shake hands with your coach. He says, all right, you're playing beside Sidney Crosby. Get dressed. And away you go. Okay. Trade McCain to Ottawa for Brady Tkachuk. John McCain's dead, man. You got a feel for Galchenyuk, Jay Poopsie says. Dude worked his butt off in practice. And still didn't work out. Wish him the best in Minnesota. Galchenyuk worked too hard. There came a point when he just gripped the stick too tight, when he thought too much, when he got mired in the quicksand, and eventually he got swallowed up by it. He had that little run in mid-November when he scored a couple of goals. And he just didn't capitalize on it, and he sunk further into it, and that was the end. Okay. Bobby, you think they could get a first or Addison? Equivalent prospect back in a Murray or Jarry deal this summer? Yes, I do. I think Murray, if they choose to go with Jarry in the future, and boy, we have the trade deadline 2 weeks away, and you guys are asking me about the summer trades now. Can you focus, people, focus? There, focus on Tristan Jarry. Yes, dealing either of those goaltenders will net you at least a first-round pick. Heard rumors before Zucker about Tatar, Tyler Toffoli, Chris Kreider, and a potential winger swap with Edmonton. Yes, you're right, Aaron. Those were all rumors. And if you watch a lot of these shows, I always differentiate a rumor from a report. A report is, a lot of the times you'll see on Pittsburgh Hockey Now, we can confirm these teams have talked. That's not a trade rumor. That's a report. I think that the Tatar stuff was rumor. Toffoli stuff, soft report. No one actually ever said the Penguins called L.A. about Tyler Toffoli and L.A. responded with an offer. We've never got to that point with Toffoli. Chris Kreider, the Penguins would have to give up their 2021 first-round pick and Sam Poulin, Nathan Legare, P.O. Joseph. No, just not happening. Don't forget now, look, the Penguins just gave up the shop to get Zucker. Oh, I scrolled down too far, so I'm going to miss a lot of your stuff here. Do you think Rutherford should have required the Wild to retain some kind of salary on Zucker? Good question, Anthony. No. Here's one thing that I have said, and people, I know, nuance is absolutely lost in this digital social media age. When I broke down the Penguins trade, yes, the Penguins paid too much. Yes, Minnesota won that trade because of what they got in return for Zucker. But the Penguins also got their man. And if their man produces what they hope and expect, they're okay with overpaying. So that doesn't mean the Penguins lost the trade just because I think Minnesota won the trade. Do you understand kind of the middle ground on which I'm living? I was also told a couple weeks ago, we published this morning on Pittsburgh Hockey Now. Where am I? There. Whoop. There I am. In the Jim Rutherford story this morning on Pittsburgh Hockey Now. We've known about the offer sitting on Billy Guerin's desk for a few weeks. What we were told was a first-round pick and a prospect, but that prospect was much less than Kalen Addison. So with that information, and it wasn't Philip Hollander like Emily Kaplan on ESPN predicted, it was a better prospect, I think, than Hollander, because anybody who saw Hollander in training camp did not come away thinking he will ever make the NHL. It was a brutal training camp for the Penguins' former second-round pick. Having said that, the number one and the prospect the Penguins were to give up was much more in keeping with a guy like Zucker. I believe the reason the Penguins had to give up so much in the deal is because they included Alex Galchenyuk. Because they gave up that guy, they had to pay more. They had to pay a premium to get rid of him. Now, that also means the Penguins have $4.3 million to play with and not pennies to play with for the rest of the season and for the next couple of weeks going to the trade deadline. That's another reason why the Penguins gave up Addison. So if and when Jim Rutherford makes another move, that will be part and parcel to judging his trade deadline and the Zucker deal. If he spends that money into another valuable asset, then it all becomes kind of one thought. And Rutherford is pretty good at that. Having said all of that, if Rutherford doesn't use that money for a valuable asset, they'll have overpaid. You can look at. I guess being able to argue both sides sometimes is a blessing and a curse. You can say, the Penguins got their guy, they had to pay up. Yay, we got our guy. The flip side of that, for me, who looks at the entire league and maybe a lot different terms than a lot of you will or should look at it, the Penguins gave up all of that for a guy who was put on Minnesota's fourth line last week. See, you can really spin it both ways. Let's see here. This team will be really fun with Dumo, Marino, Cahoon, a little bit of Bukestad back. Almost sounds like Mambo number 5. Anyway. Where'd the chat go? I lost the chat. Bear with me while I reopen it. Okay, there it is. Come on back, chat. By the way, you all know Leo, right? My fat and happy grandson who actually, I thought I had carpal tunnel, but the more I realized, I think I sprained my wrist carrying that little meatball around the aquarium down in Baltimore. Also heard Brandon Saad rumored before Zucker. Yeah, there are websites which specialize in trade rumors, and literally it is a guy sitting there with a laptop or a desktop. He has some friends, and they I think the Penguins should get Brandon Saad. Brandon Saad's from Pittsburgh. The Penguins need a scoring winger. Saad's a scoring winger. The Penguins can afford him now that Jake Gensel is hurt. Yeah, it makes sense to you. Makes sense to you. Yeah, it makes sense to me. Okay, yeah, I think the Penguins are going to get Brandon Saad. They put it down on the website. And then people run to the message boards, and they debate it, and those guys make money. The message board makes money. The website makes money. And then you're like, no. No, I don't think Brandon Saad was ever a legitimate possibility or even a consideration for the Penguins. His style of play, he's not that speedy power forward that Zucker is. He just isn't. Okay, where are we at here? Vatanen and Palmieri will be too expensive. Don't have the pieces to make any of those moves. Yeah, I tend to agree. And plus, where would you put a guy like Palmieri right now? I just don't see another big trade happening. In fact, it can't. Oh, okay, that's getting down to the end here. Cool. Can the Pens get Kreider this offseason? I think Kreider will be a New York Ranger. Just gut feeling. I think they might trade him. They might say, look, they're in contract negotiations now. They very well might say to Kreider, all right, listen, dude, you want to come back to a better team next year? You like New York? Yeah, I like New York. You want to come back to a better team? Yeah. All right, we're going to trade you. We're going to go get a prospect and a number one pick for you, and then July 1st, you put your name on this contract that we're talking about right now. How's that sound? Okay. And, they'll send him to Boston, or they'll send him, I'm trying to think of who else was really in on Kreider. All the contenders kicked the tires on him. Logan, a fan's decision or thoughts about a trade is always determined by the success of the team and the individual. What else would it be determined by? Hair color? All right. After the trade, it gives you something to talk about. Well, yeah. Do you think Zucker will move to the right side when Gensel comes back? No. Or will they try him on Malkin's left wing and Rust on the right? Look, don't forget. What if they did Gensel, Malkin, and Hornquist again? Or Gensel, Malkin, and Rust? What if they did that? And Hornquist down on the third line, let him crash and bang with Jared McCann or Nick Bjugstad on that line. Or, you keep Hornquist with Malkin and you put Rust up with Crosby. And get, there's they really will have, they'll have a lot of options when Gensel is healthy. Sullivan never would tell us. Shelley Anderson of Pittsburgh Hockey Now, especially was poking and prodding and trying all kinds of ways, I think, to get Mike Sullivan to divulge what he was thinking if Gensel was back, or if Gensel was healthy when Crosby came back. I think the last time she asked the question, she's like, okay, well, now that it's not going to happen, can you, did you have a plan? Sullivan said, yes, I did. And no, I'm not telling you. And that was and that's all I got to say about that. Brian thinks the Pens will go for a player on a big expiring contract. Look, Ottawa GM Pierre Dorion is in the process of trying to raise the value of his assets. He was on TSN, I think it was Saturday night. Maybe it was Monday night. And he said, oh, no, we're very comfortable keeping our veteran players. We have a lot of young players coming up from the American Hockey League, and we want veterans around. Look, Ottawa's not going to make the playoffs. They've got all of these free agents to be. If they turn down any trade, Dorion should be fired. Point blank. They need every single asset they can get. And you know what? You can't have too many draft picks. You just can't. And if Ottawa has to go through a really miserable 6 weeks while the kids kind of come up to the NHL and squabble, or, you can always keep, you're going to have Borowiecki, or, I don't know, get you another veteran or somebody to walk the kids around. There's enough veterans still up in Ottawa. Craig Anderson probably won't go anywhere because he's only got an .899 save percentage, but a $4.75 million salary. Okay, keep a couple veterans around. They're going to have those. Everybody else got to go. Get every single... Look what Vegas did with all their draft picks. They spent liberally on the trade market. They got Tatar for his first, second, and third round pick. They got every player they wanted that they could afford. So they had the picks to burn. All right. What about taking a look at Puljujärvi in the off season, or Puljujärvi? Look, Edmonton's not letting him go. Edmonton had every chance to trade him at the beginning of this season. His value hasn't gone down. He's had a pretty good year over in Finland. So, until such time as Ken Holland decides that it's irreparable. And you know what? Ken Holland is an old school guy. If Puljujärvi doesn't want to play for Edmonton in the NHL, Holland just might say, fine, then you don't want to play in the NHL, and leave him over in Finland. That's a real possibility, too, just to prove a point. People can be stubborn. Hey, Mormon, Austin Matthews. Sure, why not? I dress like Austin Matthews, right? Should Pens trade for that Rangers goalie? Why? Do they not have enough goalies? If Jack Eichel isn't happy, Aaron asks and requests a trade. Where do you expect he lands? Good Lord Almighty, you guys. Oh, I had peppers for lunch. That was a bad move, wiping my eye. Oh, that was a bad move. Anywho, Jack Eichel's not going anywhere. If he does request a trade, we'll worry about that when the time comes. I mean, seriously. I mean, there will be no shortage of teams, that's for sure. I think I'm not entertaining Eichel. Just stop that silliness now. How many players do you think GM JR can sign this summer? Let's worry about February, people. We're in February, the NHL trade deadline. We can talk about Tyler Toffoli. That guy, Tyler Toffoli. We can talk about Andreas Athanasiou in Detroit. We can talk about Chris Kreider. We can wonder what that guy is going to do. Why are you worried about the summer now? Worry about the next 2 weeks. I feel like Vin Diesel was it the Boiler Room? When they were just essentially a stock market chop shop. The next 90 seconds, what are you going to do? Yes, I'm well aware Puljujarvi says he's not going to play for the Oilers. And I'm well aware Ken Holland makes that decision. If Puljujarvi wants to play in the NHL, he's going to have to go back to Edmonton for at least a little while. All right. Do me a favor. Give me that like. Give me the share as well if you're still on the chat. If you'd like a discount subscription to PHN Plus, we've been putting out, I really feel like I'm dialed in diagnosing the Penguins games last few weeks. I really feel like I'm watching Sullivan, and I've kind of got my eyes on now. Takes a little while to adjust, and the teams don't really go hard at the tactical adjustments too often in the first half. But now they're the Penguins last night especially. They learned from their mistakes. Last Thursday, they got the edge on the Tampa defense and tried to play low to high. Well, all that did was spring the Tampa transition game. And as they tried to play low to high, there was a good bit of miscommunication between the F3, the high forward, and a pinching defenseman. So that was a bit of a debacle. How many odd man breaks and breakaways did Matt Murray have to save Thursday night? He certainly didn't have to save nearly as many on Tuesday night. What the Penguins did eventually, once they finally figured out how to move the puck through the neutral zone, and by the way, they still didn't dump it in. They almost exclusively used controlled zone entries on Tuesday night. And they played a center-out game where the puck would go to the center of the ice coming into the zone, and then they would spring a winger down the wall. And be it Rust or Zucker or Simone or even Hornquist, and the winger would get the edge on the back marker defenseman. And when when the Penguins would get that edge, they would run the play from there. Either go to the net or take it behind the net or work it back to the slot. And they kind of tried to work from the bottom up on the Tampa defense without playing low to high. You also saw Tampa's puck support just blow past the Penguins' forecheck on Tuesday night. The Penguins deployed something I've never seen them do. And they didn't do it a lot. They did it a handful of times or less, actually, where they were a single file on the forecheck. When I really noticed it, Brian Rust went tight to the net to chase the defenseman, and Jared McCann stayed kind of in the middle of the slot. It was really an odd, I guess one hockey coach told me it's kind of an angular forecheck. They try to push it to the wall. Both players then go to the wall, whichever wall Tampa would choose, and the defense steps forward, and they try to pin them over there. Such as, I'm talking with my hands and you can't see me. Like this, bring the defense in while the forwards kind of try to trap them, but Tampa just blew right past them. Just puck support, tic-tac-toe, zoom through the neutral zone, right into the Penguin zone, and that was not an effective deal. Hornquist doesn't work on the power play, Jason asks. Seriously? He's a beast in front of the net. I don't know that I said Hornquist didn't work on the power play. All right, Kyle, just stop, okay? I put down the spoons, Kyle. I know what you're doing with the spoons and the lighter. Stop. I think I started the sentence before. If you want the discount to PHN Plus, go ahead and DM me at the Dan Kingerski. See it right there on the screen. Go ahead, DM me. I will send you the private page. We don't use coupon codes because if those of you who've been with us for a couple of years now, this February is our 2-year anniversary when Matt Geitka came on board and Pittsburgh Hockey Now went from, kind of my side, just a little side thing I wrote to explain hockey and to talk hockey to a full-time deal. Matt obviously decided he didn't want to be in the business anymore, and I've just essentially carried two people's jobs for the last 2 years, but this is the 2-year anniversary. In fact, I think it's this week too. I think I went out to dinner with them like on Valentine's Day or like right before Valentine's Day, and we were laughing, and I seem to remember that. Anywho. Logan says that's why we need to run the 1-2-2 and clog up the neutral zone and try to slow them down. Logan, they tried that. That didn't work either. I'll tell you what did work against Tampa Bay. And if you subscribe to the PHN report card, I've already told you this, but Logan, I'm guessing you don't. I hope you will. DM me, and I'll send you the discount code to get $7 off. What the Penguins began to do with Tampa to slow them down is skate with them. They stopped trying to clog the ice by laying back or being in formation, and they skated with Tampa. They pressured the puck. They pressured the open men. They pressured them up and down the ice, and that's when the Pittsburgh Penguins turned the tables. That's when the Penguins finally turned the tables on Tampa Bay for the first time in 5 periods. In the third period, the Penguins had, 16, 17 shots on goal, primarily because they just, I don't want to call it a man-to-man defense, but there are certainly some elements of that. Kind of a hybrid zone man where, okay, there's your guy, stay with him. And that's when the Penguins, I thought, played their best hockey. I think you'll see that if these two teams meet in the late spring, you'll see a lot of that. Okay. They will eventually put Zucker on the power play instead of 72. They did last night, and Zucker actually had a really good look from the slot. No question about it. That's one thing to watch going forward is the Penguins salary cap situation. Can Zucker handle power play 1, and what might the Penguins do with Patrick Hornquist? You want to talk about summer stuff? Circle that on your calendar. If the Penguins would enter year 3 of Hornquist's 5-year deal. Right? Okay. If the Pens get healthy by playoff time, I like their chances for the Cup. Yes, they do too. They know something special is within their grasp. And that's just the way it is. Appreciate the props, Jason, who's telling Logan, definitely subscribe if you dig hockey analysis. This is the place to be. Yeah, I'm getting a couple different reputations, and I appreciate most of them. I bumped into some people that I didn't know before we were talking. Like, oh, yeah, oh my friends, love your trade coverage and your breaking news, and they say you're the guy to go to, you have it before anybody else. I mean, I've had a couple stories before everybody else, and I appreciate, I'll take that rep gladly. People know me, because we do talk more about the trade deadline than anybody else. Newspapers and such, they don't have the time, the space, or quite frankly, the inclination to do it. Pittsburgh Hockey Now is for hockey lovers, right? That's what we do here. Pittsburgh Hockey Now is for for hockey lovers by a hockey lover. And I'll talk about this stuff. And I'm not going to get into, specific trade proposals and some of the message board nonsense. I do try to keep it on a professional level. But absolutely, I really try to model PHN after on the Canadian hockey coverage model. And that's really, from the very beginning, what I thought would be successful here in Pittsburgh. And you've proven me right. You have taken this to a whole nother level. Thank you. So keep sharing, keep liking, and keep spreading the word. Who do I think is going to win the Stanley Cup? Ask me in 2 weeks when this trade deadline is over, okay, Chronic? I think Schultz is the better point man on the power play, maybe. Letang is the better puck carrier, though. That can't be Dismissed. Do you think we'll see Murray and Jarry competing for the net in the postseason like we did with Fleury and Murray? Fleury and Murray never competed for the net in the postseason. This is what people were few weeks ago. The Penguins had a platoon goalie situation in 2017, Dan. They platooned the goalies. Murray played 8 or 10 games and Fleury played 10 games. They had a platoon. No, they didn't. Murray was hurt. Murray went to start the first game and tore his groin or his hamstring, was it? And then wasn't ready until early in the Ottawa series. The first time Fleury stumbled, here came Matt Murray, and the Penguins didn't go back. A platoon, by definition, is changing based on circumstances, situations. The Penguins changed because one guy got healthy. That's not a platoon. So Murray and Fleury didn't compete for the net in the postseason. I think that's a very important distinction going forward. Fans need to understand. You need to truly just lock it in like bedrock. The coach expects and hopes to pick one goalie and not change through the playoffs, period. Even if that goalie has a bad game, he's coming back the next game, period. They don't want to be flipping goalies back and forth. It's the same thing as quarterbacks. What's the expression with quarterbacks? If you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. Same with goalies. You have 2 goalies, you've got none because neither guy gets settled, comfortable, and strong. You have to just let one guy carry the mail. Hi, Ellen. Where are you, Medina? What was a dumb question? I don't know. I apologize. Jarry is the starter, the gang says. No, he's not. You can believe anything you want. By the way, did you see the Flat Earth Society's tweet this week? They were touting the Flat Earth Society, and they said, we have members all around the globe. Think about it. The Flat Earth Society has members all around a globe. That boy's a darn genius, I tell you. Jarry is not the starter. Matt Murray is the starter. We have confirmed this through internal conversations the Penguins have had with both Tristan Jarry and Matt Murray. Murray is the go-to guy for the big games, the pressure situations, and will be the starter game 1 of the playoffs unless he absolutely soils the bed between now and then. That's not my opinion. I am telling you what the Penguins are going to do because they've discussed it and I found out about it. Okay. All right. Jason says, Dan, who do you think is going to be the third pairing defense going into the playoffs? Wondering who GM JR might be looking at. I think the third pairing going to the playoffs is Pettersson Schultz. I think Marino Johnson is your second pair. Pettersson Schultz is your third pair. That's a hell of a top 6. Who's the 7th defenseman? Chad Ruedel. Who's the 8th? That, I think, is what the Penguins have to settle. If they are not comfortable with Juuso Riikola being the extra left side defenseman, then they must, absolutely must, Jim Rutherford must go get an adequate substitute. No ifs, no ands, no buts about it. Must. All right. What did I do to my wrist? I hope it's okay soon. Me too. Had all the symptoms of carpal tunnel syndrome. However, this wrist brace has done wonders in the last 2.5 weeks. My thumb no longer feels like someone is stabbing it and burning it. I appreciate the notice and I appreciate the well wishes. Thank you, Ellen. Jarry is clearly better. His numbers speak for itself. Again, DeGang. Listen instead of speaking. Listen. Okay, here we go again. The Penguins coaches. And by the way, Jarry's numbers are not better in 2020, by the way. Look them up. The Penguins coaches sat Jarry down and had a conversation with him. The Penguins coaches sat Matt Murray down, had a conversation with him. The Penguins coaches laid out the goalie rotation going forward for the rest of the season. Dan Kingerski didn't do that. The Penguins coaches, the guys who make the decisions, did that with the players, the guys who make the plays on the ice. Those people had conversations. And what they told Matt Murray was, in fact, you are the guy. You're going to play the big games. You're going to start in the playoffs. But don't screw up. If you slip, if you stumble, we're putting Tristan Jarry in. No questions asked. They looked down at Tristan Jarry and said, okay, here's the deal. Sorry, kid, you've had a hell of a first half of the season. Matt Murray has a couple Stanley Cups. He's our go-to guy. He's going to start the playoffs. He's going to start the big games, the pressure situations. You, however, are going to start a lot of games and be ready because if he dips, if he slips, you are going in at a moment's notice and the net can be yours. Go. That is what happened. Don't argue what happened. I think Jarry is better. Doesn't matter what you think. I'm telling you the reality of the situation, okay? Anywho. They need to trade Jack Johnson to Vegas for Marc-Andre Fleury. Just go to your room, MMG. Go to your room. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. In fact, wait, just sit right there. Tommy Boy will be back and hit you in the head with a tack hammer. Should have won last night. Oh, I see. MMGJ was kidding. All right, I get you. I didn't see the follow-up thread there. That's pretty good. I can appreciate it. You got to rise out of me. Good job. Should have won last night. Yeah, the Penguins had their chances. I mean, look, so did Tampa Bay. Matt Murray stopped 36 of 38 shots. He stopped 34 of 35 in regulation. Murray made a lot of very difficult saves look very easy. And that's when you know Matt Murray is dialed in. When he makes the game, when he makes the other team's big chances look like nothing. And he did that last night. And I think that's actually part of what hurts Matt Murray with fans is that when he is on his game, it's very quiet. You don't think the other team had great scoring chances until you realize they just got the puck 7 feet from the goal uncovered. That's a goal most of the time. But because Murray is so big and he read the play, he stepped forward, he stuffed Tyler Johnson, he stuffed Kucherov earlier in the game too. I mean, he really was on it. Pens definitely have to pick up a reliable left-handed D-man. Yep. Absolutely. Jason W., I see he's arguing with MMG. Jason, MMG was screwing with everybody. He's having some fun. He got us. No, I appreciate that. At least he admitted he was having some fun. He didn't just try to troll everybody. Kurt saying, yeah, left-handed D-man. But to get anything good, they're going to have to give up something good. It's funny how people think you can just get any player for nothing. I don't think the Penguins need someone good, so to speak. If you try to get a legitimate top 6 defenseman or, say, a top 4 guy, you're going to pay through the nose. There are rentals, guys at the end of their career. Ron Hainsey, Trevor Daley, who would serve that purpose and be perhaps more trustworthy than Juuso Riikola. At least, look, I thought Riikola played really well with Justin Schultz last night. I thought Riikola, when they split up Ruhwedel and Riikola, I thought Riikola played well with, with better defensemen. I hate to insult Ruhwedel that way, but putting Riikola with the more experienced defender, I thought brought out more of his game and made his game better. I hope we can get Jake back in the playoffs. I guess the math works out as possible, but, I mean, it'd have to be the Stanley Cup Finals, Eastern Conference Finals for him to come back. He's going to need a few weeks of just intense skating, and then he's going to have to get his timing back. What kind of player are you getting? But, boy, that sure would be a heck of a story, right? By the way, I mentioned this NHL salary cap earlier. What a ridiculous thing the salary cap is. Let me slide over here a little better. What a ridiculous thing the NHL salary cap is. Can you imagine an NFL team having a salary cap or a salary cap hits $10 million above the cap in the Super Bowl? Can you imagine the outcry of that? But in the NHL, it's okay. Makes no sense whatsoever. Oh, DeGang is still on. With somebody's DeGang, you can't see the world from inside your colon. It doesn't work. It just... Now look at the numbers since January 1st, DeGang. And listen when I tell you the Penguins coaches have made the decision, not me. I'm telling you not what's going to happen because it's my opinion. I'm telling you what's going to happen because the Penguins coaches have decreed it, and they make the decisions. And this is why when people ask me, when they catch me out in public, if I'm Dan Kingerski, I say, who? Any info on Gensel? Yeah, he's got a pretty good Instagram account and Tinder. I want the Pens to get Borowiecki. Yeah, I think I said earlier in the show that would be my first call too, without question. But he is an Ottawa guy. He grew up in the Ottawa area. He wants to stay. He's going to give them a hometown discount. Unless they come to him and say, hey, we can recoup some assets. You can sign with us this summer. He's not going anywhere. He doesn't want to go anywhere. What about Eric Gustafsson as the third-line D-man? Yeah, that name has really dropped off the face of the earth. He was really hot, I think, in my early trade target stories, but he's, I think Chicago's hanging on to him because his name hasn't been anywhere with anybody. Lord, can you imagine Gensel getting back and this team is healthy? Holy smokes, talking about something special right there. If I am Rutherford, do I try and trade Schultz knowing he's going to hit free agency this year? Schultz has not impressed me since the Pens got him from the Oilers. Well, Kurt, don't forget 2017-18 when Schultz popped 53 points. Is that 16-17? Or 17-18 that Schultz had the 53. Regardless, he had the monster year, and he's really been hurt the last two. 19-20, 18-19, he's been hurt. 17-18, he slumped. So 16-17 was his big year. He played really well last night. But no, I do not think the Penguins trade Justin Schultz for the reasons we just talked about a few minutes ago. Chad Ruedel would then be your third pairing defenseman. That's not going to happen. Consider it this way. Consider it the Penguins got a free trade, and they acquired a solid puck-moving right-side defenseman named Justin Schultz as a rental player, and they spent nothing for him. A conditional 12th round draft pick. All right, kids, do me a favor. Give me those likes and the shares. Keep this little thread going. Wow, we've done an hour already. I should be wrapping things up. It is a little bit after 2 o'clock, so I will give you the last call. If you would like a discounted subscription, and I'm happy to give it, by the way. Don't be embarrassed. To Pittsburgh Hockey Now, PHN Plus, just DM me, okay? I don't want to, actually, you know what? Maybe I should, here, so you don't have to ask me. I am going to, here's the link. I'm going to make it public right here. Do me a favor. Don't share this around because I don't want people who are not part of the chat to have it. This is just between you and me. All right, there you go. There's the link to get the $20 subscription, annual subscription to PHN. And why don't I do many sales, you ask? I'm worth it. I'm absolutely worth it. Just the breakdown, which we do on the report card, I would hope would be enough for you. I mean, good Lord. On game days, my day is an 18-hour day from 6 a.m. to 2, 3 a.m., and then right back at it, 6 a.m. the next day. more columns. That's why you pay $20 a year. Think about that. That's, or $2.99 a month. A Starbucks black coffee is $2.99. I'm better than 16 ounces of coffee. Oh, hey, Brian. Because of Hornquist, you used Hornquist's nickname. YouTube is holding your comment. So I'm going to unfreeze you here. YouTube didn't pay me for my last chat. I don't make anything from these. It's kind of why I don't love doing them so much anymore. Because $5 or $7 we'll make on YouTube, is all. But you can't use Patrick Hornquist's name or they think you're using dirty slang. Anyway, I want to see Tanev on the first line with Sid. Put Hornquist with Gino. Put J Mac on with... Who's J Mac? Who's J Mac? Jared McCann. With Teddy and Czar. Yeah, but the problem is, look, in reality, Tanev's hands are not what you want on the top line. Look, take nothing away from Brandon Tanev this season. He's not a hands guy. I would have said Bouwmeester, but that ship has sailed. Hopefully he heals soon. I wondered about Bouwmeester too, but don't forget, St. Louis kind of has big designs this season as well. All right, thanks for hopping by, Jason. Appreciate the props. At the moment, the Pens have no pushback for when guys like Wilson take their cheap shots at the Pens stars. Love to see them get someone who isn't afraid to throw down in those situations. I think that is absolutely, yeah. When you talk about the dark arts of hockey, Penguins fans reflexively think of guys like Jay Caulfield, Mark Kachowski, who else? Some of these, lead-footed, ham-handed guys who didn't play hockey, and that's just not the case. I still think, boy, Eric Goodbranson was just such a perfect fit. Goodbranson neutralized Tom Wilson like nobody. Wilson knew that Goodbranson could, and that's all that it took. Wilson knew that Goodbranson could, and Wilson knew that Goodbranson would. And that's all that it took. And I thought Goodbranson played really well with the Penguins last season. So did he. He trained like a maniac this summer. Dude was really geeked about this season and just the way things fell apart there. I think he took it a bit hard. He was one of those guys I would wander over and chat with occasionally. I think it hit him. Like, damn, man, what do I have to do? I think he thought Pittsburgh was going to reestablish his career. And he was a first-round pick with some pedigree. And I think he got a little bit, he got optimistic and he got excited for the potential and the possibilities and to be dealt to Anaheim. I don't think, I think he's on the first pairing there. They love him there as well they should. But if the Penguins do get a right side defenseman, if they were to deal Justin Schultz or to replace Justin Schultz, there'd be the guy I'd get. Would be Goodbranson. Ty Domi, that's it, baby. All right, kids. That's going to be it for me. We've done an hour and 10 minutes. As always, I do appreciate you. Here, I'll put the code down here one more time. Support Pittsburgh hockey now. Look, we've gotten bigger than we ever thought possible, but we're still fighting the big guys. And I will say this to you on the live chat as well. The big guys have not all played fair with us. And we'll leave it at that. So the more support we get from you, the more help we get from you, the more fight we can take to them because we're doing really well. We're taking it to them, but we're still viewed in some very important circles as party crashers, as bloggers, whatever negative or nasty or demeaning or diminishing, dismissive label they can put on us, they do. And we just keep getting bigger. We keep taking it to them. So I appreciate you all very much. All right, kids. Until we talk again, we'll talk again next week, and then we'll do a big trade deadline spectacular. I'll probably set up a TV over here, and we'll do something on the trade deadline like all day long. All right, until then, kids, have fun.